and welcome. My name is Rashim Mogha and I'm your host for this Empowered Women of the World podcast. This podcast is for you. It is for me and it is for all women who want to take charge of their career and happiness. In this weekly podcast, we'll talk about technology. We'll talk about leadership and we will talk about mindfulness. We will talk about how you can discover, visualize and actualize your success, whatever that means to you. We will also talk about our common opponent, the conscious and unconscious bias which we deal with on a daily basis. And we'll share ways to navigate work politics. At the end of each podcast, I will share with you a tip or a resource that you can use to be successful. It's going to be a fun ride, so hop on and join me on this journey every week. Now, before we start today's podcast, I want to remind you about our virtual incubator program. If you have a startup idea that you want to take to the pitch deck stage, this eWOW virtual incubator program is for you. Applications are due July 31st and I'll add the link in the show notes below. So today, I'm super excited to welcome Dee Piziak on the show. Dee is a business transformation leader and her areas of expertise include IT strategy development and cloud innovation and implementation. Dee, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me, Rashim.
So Dee, you are a first-generation American. What are some of the challenges that you faced when you were growing up in the United States as first-generation American?
Well, I was born and raised here, and I grew up in a small southern town. When we first moved there, Rashim, there were like 5 Indian families. That was it. Now there are hundreds of Indian families in my hometown, but back then I was keenly aware and I was made aware in many not so nice ways that I was different. It made for a pretty lonely existence. So to distract myself and keep busy, I developed hobbies and I participated in extracurricular activities in school that piqued my interest and kept me busy. My parents supported me tremendously. I took sewing lessons, piano lessons. I tried out for school plays, and if I didn't get a role, well, then I volunteered to sew the costumes. I mean, you get the point. What I realize now as an adult is that these activities fostered my love of learning, and most importantly, they gave me self-confidence and boosted my self-esteem during challenging times. And to this day, when I invest time in learning something new and I invest time in myself, it makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah, and Dee, you and I met a few years ago when you and I were both at Oracle, and one thing that has always inspired me, and I have is how you're so curious about learning new technology, how you are curious about everything, like you want to know more. So you're a tech practitioner, you're also a university professor. How do you keep yourself up to date on technology?
Well, one of the things that is most effective that I do is I subscribe to the news feeds of major tech publications like Computer World, CIO, Wired, MIT Technology Review, Tech Republic, to name a few. And here's my strategy. I only read the headlines. And I do it every day. If something interests me, well, then I click on the link and I read the article and I go into the detail. But what reading headlines on a consistent basis does for me is that it highlights those technologies and the topics inside of those technology domains that are trending and are important for me to know. For example, AI and machine learning. You might think, okay, well, what about cloud? Well, interestingly enough, through my reading, right now the buzz is all about strategies to control cloud costs, not why do cloud or how to migrate to cloud, but it's all about cloud costs. And I know that just by reading the headlines, over the course of time, I've subscribed to some feeds, I've unsubscribed to other feeds, I pick up some new ones, I drop ones that aren't serving me anymore. That's normal. I've also evolved to adding business journal feeds to my daily read because I work with executives and IT leaders, and I need to understand their perspectives. Now, our listeners might be thinking all this reading sounds like a lot, but I can tell you that on average, I spend about 20 minutes a day reading what's coming across the wires. And this practice has helped me tremendously in the classroom too. It's helped me keep my course materials and my lectures fresh and relevant. Now, if there are technologies I need to dive deeper into, I utilize platforms like Udemy, Linux Academy, and Coursera. They have excellent instructors and up-to-date materials. That's my strategy.
Yeah, that's a really great strategy, Dee. And I do the same stuff with Biz Journal, Silicon Valley Business Journal, and a few other publications. But I really like the tip that you had in terms of, adding to your mix, subscribing and unsubscribing as you identify what works for you, right? Which business journals or technology journals actually click for you. This is an era of tech overload, right? Every day you hear about a new technology, you hear about something new happening in the tech world. And as I mentor women leaders, I often get asked, what technology should I invest my time in? What are some of the tech areas that are hot? What technology should our women leaders be focusing on?
Well, technology is such a massive field that it is very easy to get overwhelmed trying to figure out where to invest your time. You're right. And it changes so rapidly, which just makes it even more difficult. My advice is to focus on technology domains and the specific technologies inside of them. The basic core domains in technology are networking, security, infrastructure, data, integration, and application development. And depending upon how you view technology, you might add a few domains to that, but you get the point. All quote unquote new or hot technologies are based upon one or more of those domains. For example, machine learning, that's in the data domain. Mobility, that requires networking and security domain knowledge. Cloud, that requires networking, security, and infrastructure domain knowledge. Just ask anyone who's studying for a cloud certification and they'll tell you. So my advice is pick a major domain and a couple of minor domains, and that's it. And I know that sounds like the college professor in me, right? But seriously, invest time in the domain or domains that you love and what resonates with you, and you'll flourish. If you're always trying to chase what's hot, you'll never build a solid, sustainable career foundation. For example, I love data. That's my core domain. Back from my IBM days, I learned how to set up relational databases and write SQL code. Then I went to Oracle, and now I'm at Google talking to customers about data warehouses, visualizations, and machine learning. My data domain knowledge has served me well for over 25 years. I also love integration. That led me to learn about process reengineering, which led me to get my Six Sigma black belt, which led me to developing an expertise in robotic process automation. My point is, invest your time in domains and the technologies associated with them. Don't chase the technologies du jour.
This is such a great point that you bring up, because it was not too long ago when I was speaking at a conference, and after the conference ended, one of the women leaders actually came up to me and said, I really want to learn about cloud computing and get a few certifications under your belt, but I am stuck. I don't know whether I should go for AWS or I should go for Google Cloud or Oracle. And for me, it's all about understanding the basics. I said, how about you just start with cloud computing and understanding cloud computing, because once you understand the basics of it, learning about a cloud computing vendor and the services that they offer is not that hard, but you got to get your basics right? And people think about, it will take me six months to get an AWS architect level certification, for example, and they get stuck in that. And they don't even get started because they think that they don't have time for 6 months to take a certification.
Your advice is spot on. Exactly.
So what are some of the ways in which people can learn about technology without overwhelming themselves, Dee?
Remember, staying up to date is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's an ongoing process. You need to do a little bit every day or every other day and spend about 15 to 20 minutes. And you've got to make it a priority and be prepared to spend a little money and invest in yourself, Look, you're worth it. Plus, your livelihood is dependent on it. The modules that I mentioned on Udemy, Linux Academy, and Coursera are usually no more than 15 minutes each. And guess what? That's by design. Don't jump around and have a zillion partially started courses. Finish what you start. You'll retain the knowledge better, you'll spend your money wisely, and you'll feel a sense of accomplishment. YouTube has also become a fabulous resource for learning technology, and there's lots of videos. Some are great, some are not so great. So my advice is, if you can't easily follow what's being explained, look for the good teachers, look for the good explainers. If you can't find that in a YouTube, move on and look for a better one. The other strategy I have is learning from my peers. If someone I know is articulate and really knows their space, I'll ask them to give me an overview, or I will ask if I can quietly dial into one of their webinars and listen and learn. They're almost always flattered and very gracious and happy to oblige. The point is, find a way to integrate learning into your what I call regular personal operations, so to speak. If you do, I can assure you that you will be amazed at how much you have learned after just a few months.
That's such wonderful advice, Dee, and great in these times when everybody is trying to figure out what their next move is going to look like, how they are going to COVID-proof their job roles, and how they're going to give the best to their customers and upskill themselves. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dee. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And today's free resource for you is the link to the eWOW Virtual Incubator Program that will empower you with confidence that you need to pitch your ideas. The link is in the show notes below. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for loving, liking, supporting, and sharing the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. I love your feedback emails, so please keep them coming. I look forward to seeing you again in our next podcast. Till then, keep safe and keep empowering the world.